Previously on Formula 1 at the United States Grand Prix, Lando Norris pretty much leaves the door open for Max Verstappen, but it's Max that pushes Norris off the track on lap 1, and it's Leclerc that slips through. But here we go, still on lap 1, Carlos Sainz now decides to have a go. Interesting, passed at the apex. Sainz is ahead, but both of them go on the track, and Max Verstappen cheekily stays or keeps or gets ahead of Carlos Sainz. But the most controversial moment on lap 52, Lando Norris round the outside of Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen appearing to maybe outbrake himself at the very least. Both of them going off the track, forcing Lando Norris off the track. Norris goes, I'm going to go past you anyway, but then gets, sadly for McLaren fans, a 5-second penalty. Verstappen fans rejoice, justice is done, or is it? We'll be still talking about that as we preview the Mexican Grand Prix. And welcome to the Mexican Grand Prix. Yes, it's still going to be a talking point coming into Mexico, sadly, but we have poised a Constructors Championship fight, which we'll get into. But most importantly, as you can see on the screen, we have the times. I believe these are UK times. So FP1, 7:30 to 8:30 on the Friday. And then again, 11 to 12:30. That's quite late, isn't it? FP3 in the morning in Mexico, or the afternoon, about 6:30 to 7:30. That all-important qualifying session. Although you can pass at Mexico, very much like COTA. I mean, let's be fair. Charles Leclerc was not on the front row, and he dominated the event at COTA at the United States Grand Prix. And the race lights out at 8 o'clock, between 8 till 10, yeah, roughly kind of about 2 hours, give or take a bit. But that is your American Grand Prix times. Now let's just remind ourselves of that championship standing with Max Verstappen once again dominating, really, let's be fair. He has, I don't want to say one hand on the title. I want to say he's got his fingers. He's got his fingers on the title. It's looking good if you are a Red Bull and Max Verstappen fan. And let's be fair, other than that controversial move on lap 52, he drove absolutely brilliantly. It was quite clear his car wasn't quite good enough to get the Ferraris. And then in the second part, it was Norris on those tyres. And if you take away that controversial moment, Max did drive a fantastic defensive race. Obviously, until that moment. Lando Norris very much second. But instead of looking ahead at Max Verstappen, people are suggesting he looks behind him because the car behind is a Ferrari. It is a scarlet wonder of Charles Leclerc homing in on him on the points. It's going to be really interesting to see where at the end of the season we have the top three. Also interesting is McLaren, Red Bull Racing and Ferrari. A three-way fight now, people are suggesting, for the Constructors Championship. Some suggesting a two-way fight, but not between McLaren and Red Bull, between McLaren and Ferrari. Why? Red Bull, well, they still have Sergio Perez, but we're coming into Mexico. Can Sergio Perez do something special? Will this be Sergio Perez? Will this be Perez's last ever Mexican Grand Prix, pray tell? Guess we'll get into that in a bit as well. So let's then start to have a look at that track, shall we? Or in Mexico. It is quite a fast track, albeit there's quite a lot of downforce. Why? Because we're quite high. Not in the sky, but we're quite high up in compared to sea level. And the higher you go, the less the downforce is going to work. So they have to nail on the downforce. And also, as we know, certain engines seem to struggle at the Mexican Grand Prix. Once again, we will most certainly get into that. But let's have a lap of the Mexican Grand Prix, shall we? You've seen the wonderful map guide I've got on there. Let's go on board as we take on the Mexican Grand Prix. On the start-finish straight now, you are very much going to need to get that DRS. You're probably going to need the ERS. You may well need everything to head into the first turn. Turn 1, 2 and 3. It's pretty much a chicane. As you can see here, we are with Sergio Perez, the Mexican Marvel. Or at least we're hoping he's going to be the Mexican Marvel, the Mexican Ministry of Defense, etc. Whatever you want to give him. But as we come out of the chicane, once again, this is the second DRS zone. Yes, we have seen passing here. Yes, we've seen Sebastian Vettel get very upset at Max Verstappen coming in here. So this is, I don't want to say it's like a Mickey Mouse segment, but it is quite slow. You need to be careful on the traction. You want to be neat. You don't want to clip any of those curbs, and then it is full beans, full bananas down here between turn 11 and 12. This is I mean, it kind of almost reminds me of the first sector in Kota. Very twisty, very turny. It is fairly flat though. But onwards now as we go to the absolutely amazingly awesome section. Even this is between turns 11 and 12, and up to turn 13 now you really are going to need that traction. You're going to have to be nice and careful on the power. Past Bottas corner, that stopped back Verstappen getting his first pole position incidentally. When Bottas crashed, Max ignored the yellow flags, and Danny Ricciardo got pole in the end anyway. But there we go, we are carrying on onward to the Mexican. Well, how many laps do you need? We'll get into that in just a second. When we look at the track stats, it's 71. We have a total of 17 turns. Now, although this is quite a new circuit to the calendar, it was opened in 1959, first visited in 1963, races held a total of 23. Lap record, none other than the Flying Dutchman himself on a 1:14.758. That's the track record, sorry, the lap record held once again. I think just like America, I have certain Valtteri Bottas in 2018 on a 1:18.741. So there have been 23 Mexican Grand Prix held since the first event was held in 1963. It's been held, though, every year since 2015, except, obviously, 2020. I don't think we need to tell you about that one. It was cancelled. So Verstappen, though, has the most Mexican wins. In 2021, he became the first driver to win more than 2 races in Mexico. He holds the most records in Mexico City with 5, having taken his 5th just last year. Aside from that, he's in good hands. We've got Jim Clark, Alain Prost, Nigel Mansell and Lewis Hamilton, all world champions. Now in 2018, Verstappen became the first driver to have taken back-to-back victories at Mexico, repeating the feat in 22 and 23. Now from the current grid, it's Verstappen and Hamilton are the only drivers to have a victory here. Hamilton's won twice in 2016 and 2019. British drivers, though, have taken more victories than anyone else, with 8 wins shared between them. Yeah, it is quite the infamous, well, I don't want to say infamous, is that a bit harsh? Famous list of Nigel Mansell, John Surtees, Graham Hill, Jim Clark, and your 7-time champion Lewis Hamilton. Now, the longest streak of winners at the track came between 1964 and 1989, when a different driver won the Grand Prix itself 11 seasons. In the 11 seasons it was held, we only have 1 Grand Slam. Nope, it's none of the drivers on the grid. It's not even Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton. It is none other than Scotland's own, arguably one of the best drivers of all time, Jim Clark. I said one of. Red Bull, though, has the most wins out of any team at the Mexican Grand Prix. In 2022, Red Bull set a new record for the most wins in Mexico, with Max Verstappen's victory at the 2022 Mexico City Grand Prix being their 4th in the country. They extended the record to 5 in 2023. So, that's pretty much your stats when talking about the Mexican Grand Prix. Hello, yes, I am back, because now we are going to be talking about the drivers and how we feel. So we're going to start, what team should we start with? Well, let's start with Haas, shall we? And I'll tell you what, Kevin Magnussen, what an absolute trick he did last time out. He looked really, really competitive. Arguably the best weekend in terms of his overall speed. So well done. More of the same, maybe. Now, the one issue for Kevin Magnussen, or Kenan Magnussen, as you can see, I can't spell. The one issue we may well have coming into the Mexican Grand Prix is that Ferrari engine. Yeah, that's going to be an issue, because the last few times we've been here, the Ferrari engine is not a massive fan of altitude. So whereas Charles Leclerc dominated Kota, the concern being is it could be slightly different here. It might have reduced at that pace of the Ferrari, but only time will tell. As Nico Hülkenberg, I mean this guy, 10th in the Drivers' Championship in what everyone thought was going to be one of the worst cars coming into this year. Absolutely amazing, and I can't help but feel that Haas are very much going to be missing him. There's going to be a tear in their eye. There definitely is going to be a tear in the, but it's going to be a tear in the eye. I mean, what is going on with Stake F1? Hulkenberg is going to Stake F1, going to the Sauber. He knows there's potentially light at the end of the tunnel, though, simply because that Stake F1 team is going to become Audi. But with Zhou Guanyu and Valtteri Bottas, both of them once again on nil point, it's going to take something for either of them to get points. It's not looking great, is it? And also, just like the Haas team, they have a Ferrari engine, which... So we've got Yuki Tsunoda and Liam Lawson. I haven't done the Liam Lawson sticker, so I do apologise, but I'll be talking about them both now. Yuki Tsunoda did okay in COTA, and then comes along a certain New Zealander by the name of Lawson with the first name of Liam. Yeah. I wouldn't say he trounced him, but starting right at the back, kind of embarrassed Tsunoda, didn't he? Bearing in mind, and this is around where there were talks that Yuki Tsunoda, that Honda very much wanted Tsunoda promoted to that Red Bull team. Obviously, to, remove Sergio Perez. Having said that, if Liam Lawson puts in drives like that, it's going to be a bit difficult to justify, isn't it? So I'd say going into the Mexican Grand Prix, the pressure is very much going to be on Yuki Tsunoda to perform. I mean, this Liam Lawson kid, he's not too bad, is he? Next up, we have Williams. And the Williams of Colapinto. People I've seen on social media, wrongly I think at the moment, are saying, wow, they need to get rid of Alex Albon now. So the dislike has gone to Logan Sargent, to Alex Albon. To be fair, Alex Albon, I think like Lewis Hamilton, which we'll get into in a bit, had an absolute mare of a weekend. Absolutely abhorrent. Really, really, really horrible. I mean, I just felt for him. He had that spin, didn't he, in qualifying, and yeah, he was really shown up by Colapinto. It's going to be interesting going into the Mexican Grand Prix. He needs to reset, and I think he has to beat Colapinto. Otherwise, people are going to be asking questions, and I think the pressure then will start piling on going into the last few races of the season. This is Alex Albon here himself. So as we know, he didn't do that great at the Red Bull, but he rejuvenated himself at Williams, and to the point where at the beginning of this year, everyone thought if Sergio Perez does not do well, surely Alex Albon could be one of the favourites to get in that Red Bull drive. Now, it seems a bit far away, that conversation, doesn't it? Somewhat sadly. Not having the best of times, but as I said, the pressure's on in Mexico. He's most certainly going to need to be doing well. And the Alpine team came quite good in COTA. What are they going to do here? I mean, we're now in the last 2 years of that Renault engine, which I think is really sad. I've kind of said it on separate occasions where I feel it's a bit of a joke, really, this team. They call themselves a works team, but they're not going to have a works engine. They're going to have what we're rumoured to be a Mercedes engine. But Ocon, I mean, Haas is looking quite tasty too. So I don't think he's going to be too sad about leaving Alpine. But then with Gasly getting up there in, at least in qualifying for COTA, there is potentially some light at the end of the tunnel. Yes, Alpine are very much in a rebuilding phase, and that rebuilding phase, long may it continue well into 2025. And I think if he's here for the long term, he just needs to be a bit patient. So Lance Stroll, what is going on with Aston Martin? At the moment, the only thing that's keeping that Aston Martin looking half decent is the absolute gymnastics of a certain Fernando Alonso. Yeah, this guy here, not particularly Lance Stroll. He is really showing up, and I think he has been rejuvenated since that Adrian Newey signing. If you remember, he re-signed for the team earlier this year, and as I keep saying, didn't do particularly well, did he? But now Adrian Newey said, "Yep, I'm gonna help you out, Fernando." It's very much different. We've seen almost the old Fernando back, but in the old Aston Martin uncompetitive car, which is a bit of a shame. I think he's probably looking forward to the end of the year when he can get rid of the car and, fingers crossed, I don't want to say start again, but have a much revised car for 2025. So I'm pretty sure he's keeping his fingers crossed. Oscar Piastri, where was he? Did he even turn up in America? I mean, yeah, I know. He was there, but he was kind of like, he wasn't even a co-star. He wasn't even co-starring in the race. He was kind of maybe an extra, let's say, if you're by judging by actors, because yeah, he was just there. And that's it. He not particularly great qualifying for the sprint race, but going into Mexico once again, just like Alex Albon, it is a refresh. But unlike Alex Albon, I don't think Oscar's under that much pressure. I say under that much because if Ferrari are doing good at the moment, if they are competitive in Mexico, the pressure's on him, because remember, there is a Constructors Championship to win, and McLaren are currently leading, and Oscar Piastri at the United States Grand Prix was left wanting a tiny bit, but I've no doubt. Remember, this is only this guy's second year. I've no doubt he's gonna come good, hopefully. But Lando Norris, the man that was or wasn't, depending on your point of view, screwed out of third place or not at COTA. I think we can all agree, though, the rules need to be looked at a bit. Whatever side of the fence you sit on, the rules, when you look back over the last couple of seasons, inconsistency with a capital I. I mean, it's put in the con in inconsistency is the FIA and the FIA stewards. So Lando Norris, he could have avoided all that, though. When you look at the start in the US Grand Prix, he just left the door open for Max. Before he closed it, too nice. He needs to be more aggressive. He's a nice guy, but he doesn't have to be a nice guy in the 2 hours when the lights go out and the checkered flag drops. That's when he needs to be ruthless but fair. I think that's kind of like fair enough. Will he be at Mexico? Well, if you remember, I think was it last year when the car was doing good, he messed up in qualifying, but everyone thought he had the pace potentially to take a fight to Max Verstappen in that McLaren. So I do feel that McLaren could do very well this year. I think, along with Oscar, if Oscar can nail the qualifying and nail the setup, I think they are looking very good for a potential fight for victory. And the big question is the Ferrari boys. So Carlos Sainz, he showed Leclerc up in the sprint, not so much in the race, albeit he kept within 5 seconds of him once he got the undercut of Charles Leclerc at the United States Grand Prix. So he's got nothing to lose, has he? Could we see Carlos Sainz winning the Mexican Grand Prix? Yes. Could we see Charles Leclerc winning the Mexican Grand Prix? Sorry. Yes. Having said that, the caveat I gave for Haas and Sauber is the caveat here. What is that Ferrari engine going to do? The Ferrari engine has the most question marks, I feel, coming into Mexico with the high altitude. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be quite interesting to see what happens with Ferrari, with Charles Leclerc, with Carlos Sainz. I do feel, though, they will be up there, even if not fighting for a victory. Would you be surprised if they get a podium? Absolutely not. What is, I think, the big mystery, though, more so than Ferrari, is what's going to happen to the two Mercedes crew. George Russell had a solid race from the back, scoring points, beating Sergio Perez, which was kind of embarrassing. But Lewis Hamilton arguably had one of the worst weekends of his career. Now, Toto Wolff has said it's the car. I believe it. Qualifying was not particularly great either. Sprint qualifying was slightly better. So what is going on? Yes, I think it is the car, but Hamilton cannot have too many more of these weekends. Otherwise, people like Alex Albon are going to be giving him question marks. And the last thing he wants is being under pressure going into a new team at Ferrari, because you've got enough to think about. And it's Mercedes. I have no idea where they're going to be. Could they be fighting for victory? Possibly, but could they be the fourth team? Possibly too. I mean, that's going to be the year. I think that's the massive issue when looking at Mercedes. You just don't know, and the don't know will continue into practice, even if they are, for example, 1-2 in practice, looking good, going into qualifying. It could all happen again. It could all go absolutely peak-tongue upside down. Such is this mystery with the Mercedes car and the setup, and it seems to be one of the most sensitive cars when it comes to the tyres. So let's talk about this guy here. The big question, though, I think there's two, is can he do anything at the Mexican Grand Prix? He nearly took the lead last year and ended up binning it at turn 1. I as much as I think I criticised him at the time and was critical, fair play to him. Heroics, he nearly pulled it off. He absolutely nearly pulled it off, and he would have been a hero. That was really 0 to 0 stuff for Sergio Perez going into that first corner. The other big question is, will this be the last Mexican Grand Prix for Sergio Perez? Possibly, I think it will, unless he pulls off an absolute marvel and wins the race, which I would absolutely love. What a way to do it. I think at that point, if I was Sergio, I'd retire with a win, go see you later, smell you later, thank you very much. Don't know if that's going to happen. There's been talk of him maybe doing it, coming in next year with Red Bull. Still, I don't know. I've always said I'm surprised he stayed with the team after the summer break. I've always said if you're getting rid of Daniel Ricciardo, why haven't you got rid of Sergio Perez? But it's a new Grand Prix. Fingers crossed. I don't dislike the guy. I just don't know why he's there. If he wins Mexico, I don't think he will, I would be so happy. And the championship leader, okay, he's not really under that much pressure at the moment in relation to the championship. He may be under pressure to win the race. He's going to want to win a race, I think, before the end of the year. Because remember, yes, he did win that sprint race, which did wonders, I think, for his confidence. But he still hasn't won a Grand Prix. And there is a chance he doesn't win a Grand Prix now till the end of the year. And that's going to, I think, really annoy Max Verstappen. I don't think it's going to mess with his head because he knows how good he is. But it's going to chisel away at him, isn't it, over the winter if he doesn't win a Grand Prix. I think he's in the running, potentially, to win the Mexican Grand Prix. You need to get the setup right. The Honda engine seems to be really good here because Red Bull have a history of doing really well at the Mexican Grand Prix. I think between here and Brazil, potentially, his two most... I think it may well be his two best chances to win. People are talking about McLaren in Kota. That was one of their worst. That was their worst track between now and the end of the season. So it's going to be really interesting. I don't think it's going to be easy for Max Verstappen. It wasn't easy for him at Kota, was it? Other than the sprint race. But even in the sprint race, he was only 2.5 seconds away from Lando Norris until Norris cooked his tyres. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a really interesting one coming into the Mexican Grand Prix. So who have you got? As you can see in the thumbnail, I think it's going to be one of these three drivers, either Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, or Charles Leclerc. Wouldn't it be nice though if the Mercedes, if both those Mercedes can join the ranks as well? Carlos Sainz is, let's be fair, he's very close to Charles Leclerc. Sergio Perez, that would be the fairy tale, wouldn't it? That would be such a fairy tale. So if you liked what you see, please give us a subscribe. That would be absolutely amazing. If you are not subscribed, hit that and hit the like if you like the video. In our eyes, then that will make you a multiple world champion. Until then, stay safe, speak to you soon, and thank you very much.